So brudet is a seafood stew that uses whatever seafood you've got on hand. In this case, I'm going to be using some squid, some shrimp, and some clams. Let's go ahead and throw some olive oil into a pot over medium-high flame. Once it comes up to temperature, we're going to throw in about half a sliced up onion. As well as some sliced garlic. I'm using about 4 or 5 cloves. I've got 2 serrano chilies here, but feel free to use a pepper that's milder or spicier depending on your taste. And I've got a bunch of parsley here. I'm going to chop about half of it for now and reserve a few sprigs for later. All I'm going to do to the squid is slice the cones into small slices and chop some of the bigger legs in half, just so that it evenly distributes within the stew. Dump all that stuff in, give it a good stir, and let's saute it until everything gets fragrant and a little bit of color. Next up, I've got 4 tomatoes. I'm gonna remove the stems and just roughly chop those. It's sort of a tomato sauce when you think about it, so no need to go too fine on these. Just dump those guys in and stir them in so that they touch the bottom of the pot. Let's cover it up and let that all simmer for about 20 minutes. Now that 20 minutes have passed, you can see we have a bit of a sauce on our hands. So at this point, we are good to throw in the rest of our seafood. Got my shrimp, as well as my clams. And I'm going to stir those guys in so they get full contact with the sauce and hopefully cook a little bit faster. Throw in about 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar, as well as a cup of dry white wine. I'm using Sauvignon Blanc. Go ahead and season with some salt, as well as some freshly ground black pepper. Stir it on in. And we can go ahead and cover it on up for another 15 minutes or so until the shrimp is nice and cooked and the clams open on up. So it looks very familiar. The roots of this dish are supposedly Italian, and the ingredients seem familiar, that's for sure. And the flavors are familiar. This is just a classic seafood stew, I guess you'd call it, maybe a soup. You get a ton of that seafood flavor from the squid being in there from the start and from the clams and the shrimp rounding everything out. The wine really balances out that seafood flavor. White wine and seafood, classic combination. You get a little bit of heat from those serrano chilies. You don't have to use them, but it really, for such a light, summery kind of dish, it really kind of rounds things out in a nice way. And that polenta, the earthiness of the corn, and the little bit of butter that I put in there as well really beefs this up in a nice way. So I'd recommend that if you're in the mood for seafood, go ahead and try and make this. It doesn't really require much time or any special ingredients. So as always, the recipe link will be in the description below. And if you like this video and you want to see more international cooking videos, then hit that subscribe button. See you next time. Cheers.